Hello and welcome back to the channel. Sorry for the long delay with the videos, but I currently have a new job which is more demanding and takes more hours than the previous one. Nevertheless, I was able to come up with the next tutorial. So let me show you what we will be working on today. So we will be working on the more complex inventory system, and as you can tell already, we do not have any weapons in our hands. But if I go to interact with the interactables, I am now able to open very simple menu, very simple inventory UI. Don't judge me, I'm not a UI designer, but we should be able to choose and apply uh, some kind of type of inventory item. And even we have this nice image here produced from the engine as a 2D texture, and then we can go and um, apply our weapons to our hands. So basically this is the aim of the video to build a simple system where we can pick stuff, open the inventory, and apply the right items to the right slots. Okay, let's do it. So this is where we left off, right? So first thing that we are going to do is we will remove everything from our player hands and actually see how things are attached to our player model. So if we go to the player into the rig, you can see right here that we have something called bone attachment node, which is used, as you can tell, to attach meshes to the skeleton. So to get rid of everything that is currently attached, we'll just remove the nodes that we don't need. Please check that you're removing the mesh instances instead of bone attachment nodes, and you can tell by the icon right here. So let's get rid of things that we don't need. We can leave the helmet and the cape for now. The next thing that I would like to do is actually extend our resource script, right? So let's find it. This is item GD and it should be in the resources. And here we will change stuff a little bit. We will use a mesh instead of a pack scene. We'll have image here, which is a texture. We will use inventory slot, and to define that I will use global enum. So let's go to project settings. Let's find autoload and let's create new node and let's call that I think enums be good. Okay, let's create this. Let's put this into scripts folder. Okay, and then we'll open that one and define a global enum that we will use. So inventory slot, and I will say for now we'll be using right hand, left hand, and other. So if we'll ever do stuff like, I don't know, smoke bombs or some kind of explosive bombs or throwing knives, we'll put that in the other slot. Going back to our item, then I can say that this is enums inventory slot type, and then the one last thing I would like to define is I would like to define where given item should be attached when being used or equipped from the inventory. So I'm gonna do bone attachment name, which is going to be a string. And this is the basic setup. We will have to do two things. We'll have to extract the meshes that we would like to use, and we'll have to extract the textures. And extracting meshes is rather easy. Extracting the texture itself might be a little bit more complicated. So let's start with the meshes. What we're using, for example, is the shield badge, and I can see that here I can open the scene. I have mesh instance, and then there will be some kind of import ID. So let's try and do re-import. I don't know whether we added it in the right place. Let's go to main. Let's drag and drop it here. And then I can open the scene and do new and inherited. Then I have to save this as it doesn't really matter, but let's do items folder in scenes. We have to save this. Then we have to clear the inheritance. So if you right click on the root node, there will be an option to clear the inheritance. Clear it. And then you can click on the mesh instance, and here you will find a mesh. And what I would like to do is first make unique. And then I would like to save as. And what I will go to resources, and maybe it's not a resource. This is more of an asset, right? So I will create new folder and call this meshes. And I will change the extension to mesh. And I will call this shield badge. Perfect. And now if we go to our assets, meshes, here we have the mesh, and it's of type of RI mesh, which is perfect. And we can repeat the very same process for our one-handed sword. So let's first find the proper scene, sword one-handed, bring that in. We can get rid of that scene. We don't need it anymore. Sword one-handed, open it, new inherited, save it. We can put this in the scenes, in items, save, clear inheritance, then make unique recursive. Okay, and then save as, and let's put it in its rightful place, which is assets, meshes, and again this is going to be sword one-handed mesh. Perfect. And I can see this is saved correctly, and I can just remove that scene. So then if we take a look at the definition of our pickable, or something that you can pick up item, I have the mesh here, and I can do quick load, and this is OH sword, so I can do the mesh, and this is the right hand, so this is good. And here I can do mesh, quick load, shield badge, and this is left hand. So now instead of having a pack scene here, what we have is a mesh as a resource. And if we go to our resources, this also should apply. Yes, as you can see here, we have the mesh that we extracted from the scene. So in the next part, what we have to do is actually generate the images for our inventory items. So just to sum up, what we would like to achieve in this episode is to go like through the whole process of picking and equipping an item. So we have an item on the ground, we pick up and we move this to the inventory, and then from there we can equip it. Oh, I can't write. Equip it into our hands so that we can use our shield and our, this is a sword, and our sword, right? So in the inventory we'll have an image that you can click to equip something. The only problem is how to generate that image. Well, you can do it by hand and just paint by yourself, but what we will do is we will use the Subviewport and the camera to generate a texture of said items. That was a little bit complicated for me to figure out, but let me show you how to do it, and I hope I will be as precise as I can be with my explanations. So let's start by actually creating new scene, and we'll use other node as a root node, and let's search for Subviewport. Okay, and I will call this item snapshotter, something like that, because it creates snapshots of item. Let's go to scenes, and let's save it. And we will need a few things here, as well as we will need some scripting. But let's add Node 3D for the stars. Let's add another child here, and this mesh instance 3D. Let's add another child of Node 3D, which is going to be camera. And this camera is of course different than our main camera here, and this will be used to actually generate the texture from what camera sees. Then we need 2 Omni lights. Okay, and let's duplicate that, and let's start placing things around. First thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna load some exemplary mesh here, and let's see, in 0, 0, 0, and let's place our camera, because it is very important. What is inside of the view of the camera is going to be rendered to a texture, so it's very important to place your camera in the right spot. So 0, 0.485 and 1.295 is my setup, and I can just see what my camera sees by clicking on preview here. More, I could just do 2 viewports and see what my camera sees, and also move camera around. So this might be useful. Let's go back to that value. Okay, this is pretty good. Then let's set the Omni lights, because I would like this to be properly lit. Okay, I believe this is fine, but as you can see, you can manipulate the lighting rather easily with Omni lights. So just place them wherever you'd like. Okay, And this is almost everything, but what we need is a script to make it reusable and just make it work. So item snapshot GD, the name is good. Let's go to scripts and let's save it here. Let's do the class name. Class name item snapshots. Okay, and then I would like to make it as reusable as possible. So let's export a few things from here. Mesh to snapshot, and this is of type RI mesh, and snapshot name string. Let's get the reference to a mesh instance. And then we'll write very ugly script that seems to work when it comes to snapshotting stuff. So ready. And then we have to wait a little bit. And what I'm going just to do is to wait for the process frame and then wait for the next process frame. And then I'm going to say image is equal to get viewport, get texture, get image, image path, so where to save the image, assets, inventory, and %s.png because that's the format, and fill this out with snapshot name, and then we can just call image save png image path. And this is not going to work because we have to actually set few things up here. So let's see. Okay, let's add this to our main scene. So just go to instantiate child scene and make sure to add to main. Item snapshot. Okay, we have to fill out those exported values. So grab the mesh to snap host. Okay, that's a typo. And name this sword one-handed. Also in assets, let's create new folder. Call this inventory. Okay, and let's try running that. Enums cannot find type enums in the current scope. So let's check our settings, project settings. Okay, I did not add it for some reason. Okay, now it's added, it's got a global variable. So we should be good here. Okay, let's check. And in inventory, we have sword one-handed, but it's all black. Okay. Let's see. Let's start by going here and clearing that. So we have better overview of what is actually happening. And this is 100% black. Actually, what I'm going to do is to add simple node 3D and attach item snapshot into that. It doesn't really matter, but I don't want it in the very same place as our player is standing. So let's see what we're missing here. Okay, I think I know what we're missing. Of course, we're not applying the mesh instance 3D mesh with mesh to snapshot. Let's try this again. And let's close this. And nope, still nothing. Okay, so there are two things that we missed here. One, if we go to item snapshots, subviewport, I can search for transparent background and I can click that on. And then, for example, we can add this underneath our Node 3D. I need to actually render the result of our viewport somewhere. So let's add simple sprite 2D. And here in the texture, I can choose viewport texture and point to item snapshots. And let's try running it now. You will see in the left upper corner of our game the sprite that we are rendering, at least a part of it, because that's in our main camera. But now if I close the game, I will get nothing. Okay, so to make it work, we just need to wait a little bit longer. I could also write probably a timer here, but let's wait a few more frames so that the mesh can load. And let's try again. We have mesh to snapshot, snapshot name, and let's wait a little bit, close it. And now in inventory, we have the PNG of our sword. Cool. So to get the same PNG file, but for our shield, I can just do quick load shield, call this shield batch, run it. Okay, and let's wait. And okay, it's a little out of place, but this can be fixed. Let's see. Let's go into item snapshots, quick load the shield batch here. Let's actually load it here. Okay, let's go to 3D. Let's see what our camera sees. Okay, and I can see that it is not really centered. So it's gonna be Y. Let's grab it and let's try to position it around the middle. Okay. Maybe even zoom a little bit. Okay, and then we can just clear that. Rerun this. And now this is way better. So basically we could repeat that whole process of applying the mesh and running the game to get every single PNG file of our items that we need, and maybe we will later when we work on the inventory. But for now we have what we need, which is the sword and the badge. And then I can go to my resources. And here I can just load the mesh, which is the sword, and I can just load the texture right now here, and then I can do the same for the shield. Let's call this shield batch, shield batch to be precise. This is the image, and this is the mesh, and the inventory slot is the left hand, and we save everything. And this is how you can get the images, for example, for inventory items or for some kind of icons, by using the game engine. Just use the camera and use the subviewport. Remember that it has to be rendered somewhere, right? So you need a sprite 2D to apply what is in the subviewport into some kind of UI node, and then you can save our file. The next step to equip the items that we have in inventory is basically going into inventory UI and reworking it a little bit. So let's start with adding the nodes that we need. So let's see, we have the margin container. This is good. We can get rid of that list, and let's start by adding a panel and giving it some kind of nice color. So style box is flat, and then we can go for some nice yellowish greenish color. Let's add another margin container, theme overrides, and let's do I believe it's 8 everywhere. Okay, and then we'll have basically 2 parts here, right? One part when we have the item slots, and then when you click on a slot, you activate the list of the items or weapons that can be applied to that slot. So let's do 8-box container. Let's see. Oh, also we need to make sure that everything is spaced out correctly. So this, and I'm not sure why we're not. Oh, it's all hidden. Okay, yeah, now it's way better. Get rid of that. HBox container alignment set to begin. This is okay. Then we need VBox container here, and then we need a separator, and that's the B separator. Let's see, you should span everywhere. Oh, this is missing. Okay, now it's correct. HBox, VBox separator, and then let's see, here we will also need a grid container for our items. Okay, and this is basically good. What we need to create right now are panels for the right hand and for the left hand, and these are going to be a separate scene. So let's do a panel, and we will need, let's call this item panel. We'll need a VBox container. Let's see, do we have anything here? Let's do custom minimum size 96 by 96. Okay, save this in scenes. We will need texture rect, and also it should span across. And here we have texture rect, and here we have a label below it. Okay, this and this. Let's see. The texture rect, we can say that it has custom unit size of 64 and 64. And then we have label. And then we'd like to make it all clickable. So I will add a button and I will tell it to span across. Okay, I believe that's it, and we can start coding. Let's make this accessible as a unique name, and let's add a script. And not to VBox container, but to the root. Place it in scripts. Okay. Let's do this. Class name is item panel. It has signal on press. What we have here is, just so that we can see it, label, and we don't really need to export this, but this will simplify some stuff a bit. Then we have on ready. Actually, what we should do is drag this in and drag the label. And already we can just say texture rect texture is equal to texture item label text is equal to label, and then I can just say on button press. Oh, this is, let's call this item label. And I can say on press emit, and I can go here, go to node and say pressed, and I can pick on button press method to be triggered, which will trigger the signal from that item panel. Perfect. So with that said, we can go back to inventory UI, and here I can say instantiate child item panel times 2, and I will call this right hand panel, and I will call this left hand panel. Okay. We will need some stuff for that, just to basically some icons that will show on both of these panels saying, well, this is right hand and left hand, and I basically got those from internet. So let's bring those in. So here I will create new folder and call this icons, and let's bring this and this into the mix, and we have, as you can see, left hand icon and right hand icon. So now I can just say texture quick load, this is right hand icon, and let's say right hand, and this is going to be left hand, and let's find left hand, oops, left hand icon. Okay, let's try and run this, and yeah, we have something. One thing that I would like to do, as I'm looking on it, basically we can hide all this, but in the player, in the inventory UI right panel, I can take the label and say that it is always centered. Okay, well, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. The one thing that we have to do for sure is to re-enable the cursor when we trigger the inventory. So let's go to player. Let's see. Here we have inventory UI. So inventory UI, we just do the toggle. Okay, so whenever we do toggle, we can just say input mouse mode is equal to input mouse mode visible if visible is equal to true, else input mouse mode captured. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, and now we can see that we have that available. We have some kind of error. So let's also take a look at this. Not found VBox container because we don't need this anymore. Okay, and we will also not do any of that. Okay, so that solves the issue. Let's hide this too because we don't need it right now. Okay, and it shouldn't be visible right from the start. So let's hide this. Okay. Perfect. Okay, now we must discuss what should happen in our inventory UI. Okay, so let's open it up, open the script, and let's start coding. Let's see. We need to connect the process of the left hand and right hand panel. So let's make those unique. Access as unique name and access as unique name. Let's get references to this. Okay. We'll also need the reference to the grid container. Let's see, and let's change the amount of columns to, let's say, 5. Okay. Let's type this correctly. We know that this is the array of items. And we'll also need the visible items array. And this is of type item, which will start as empty. Okay, and then we also need reference to item panel scene. So let's go here and let's find this. Let's call this item panel scene because we will be instantiating stuff dynamically. Okay, add item, we can actually change this to simple append function. And then in ready, we need to connect to panel press events. So right hand panel on press, and I could just also cast this to item panel item panel. And this path, as you can tell, is a little bit too long. So let's also access the grid container as unique name. Let's get rid of all of that. Okay, you can tell that this is grid container. Okay, back to connecting to the events. Connect, and I will say on right hand panel press, right? Or maybe even better. Actually, can we make it better? I believe we can, because pressing on this left hand panel and this right hand panel to filter out only the items that are applicable to a given slot, right? So basically, if we click on the right hand panel, only show items that can be equipped in the right hand slot. And if you click on the left hand panel, do the same, but filter out everything that is not applicable to the left hand slot. So the only difference in what we are doing is the slot. So let's create a function on slot pressed. And here we'll pass the slot type, which we know should be of type enums in inventory slot, right? And we can just print it for now. So these two panels should connect to the very same function, but we need to provide the argument here, and we can use that by using bind function. Okay, go to it, returns the copy of given callable, but with some arguments already applied, so some arguments already bound to it. And this is how we can dynamically create functions with some arguments already applied to it in the time of creating that function. So here we're passing the reference, but instead of referencing this function directly, we will apply the correct slot type with the bind function. So here, this is going to be enums inventory slot, and this is left hand. And here, it is going to be enums inventory slot right hand. Okay, so let's see where this works. So let's press tab, and I can see that we are not getting any presses here. So this is disappointing. Let's see why. Okay, and the issue that I found was blocking the clicks was that the layer in the canvas layer setting was too low. I set it to 2. Probably, maybe it was conflicting with that one, with interaction UI layer. But now we are able to click those buttons, thankfully. So let's go back to our inventory UI, get rid of that, and we can also set this correctly. And now we are able to click on those buttons. Perfect. So moving on, what should happen whenever we whenever we click on a given slot. Well, we need to clear the whatever we have in a grid container, right? And then show the items there. Okay, so let's think about it for a little bit. We click on a slot, and then items that we have here should be filtered into visible items. Then those should be applied into our grid container. So let's start by filtering out the visible items. This is items filter. Let's do func I and return I. Inventory slot should be equal to enums slot type, basically. And then we can call show items in a grid, visible items. And then I can say show items in a grid with visible. Actually, let's call this items to show, which is array of items. And I can say for item in visible items, we need to instantiate new panel scene. So item panel scene instantiate. Item panel label is item name. Item panel texture is item image. And then grid container at child item panel. And let's see where this actually works. So I am picking up an item. I am opening up the menu. And okay, I can see it is popping there. The problem is that the PNG is too big actually. So let's see how we can handle that. Let's go out to item panel, texture rect, and let's see how this can be configured so it maintains its size. Let's try fit width, and let's try this again. Okay, now you can see it's more closely matching to what we need. So now it can be clicked. Let me disable this. This is canvas redraws. Okay, just to show it again. Right hand. Now we have one-handed sword there, which we can click. Okay. Let's try picking up both items. One item, oops. And second item. And then I have one-handed sword 3 times, and yeah, just keeps on spawning, right? So one thing that we definitely have to do is to clear the grid whenever we click. So for child in grid container children, forget children. We can do grid remove child, and child give free. Okay, Let's try this again. So let's go here. And both are treated as left hand. So let's check our resources first. This is right hand. This is also right hand, and it is missing an image. Oh, because we don't have one. Or so it would seem. I'm gonna just add one in that case. So going back to the resource. And now I don't know why it didn't save. And it also doesn't have the mesh. This is strange. Okay, try this again. Pick up. Pick it up. Open. Left hand we have shield, and then it is not being cleared correctly. Okay, because probably we're not calling this method, right? Yes, so before we do anything, let's clear the grid. And let's try this again. Left, okay, now it's working. The UI, of course, could use some work, but I guess this is fine. Okay, so the next step that we have to do is to actually actually one thing that is a slight problem for me is you can see that the camera is rotating whenever I hover over the inventory, and I would like to get that disabled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going just to rigor simple signal inventory toggled. Okay, and then in the player I can get the reference to that. Okay, as inventory UI, and on ready I will listen to that signal. Inventory toggled connect on inventory toggled. Okay, let's write that function. Then I can say process. Do we have? Okay, we need a flag for that. So let's do and it's going to be set to true. And let's see, where do we need to apply this? Let's go to delta, the if, just return. In the physics, we can do the same. Let's see, what else? Do not work with the input. I believe that's all. Additionally, I will cancel all velocity. and I will cancel out the animation. Oh, and I don't think we have that here. Let's see. We can create that function rather easily. Now let's see. Animation, velocity value. Okay. Let's here create that function. Let's just copy all of that. Bring that here. Set the indentation, and then here I can just go set animation blend position with animation velocity. And that should be treated as a local variable, so we're all good. And then we cancel it out. Okay, let's try this. So we're still rotating because we're not emitting the signal. Go to inventory UI. Let's see, we toggle it here. So let's just say inventory toggled emit visible. Let's try this again. It is still rotating. See, what are we missing here? Silly, we of course should negate that. So we don't want to process the input if the inventory is shown. And it is still being processed, but we are not moving. So let's see if the handle rotation, it's here and it shouldn't be rotated. Oh, this is because what we're actually doing is we're rotating the spring arm, right? So let's disable that. Let's say inventory UI, inventory. Let's cast this. Inventory toggled, connect on inventory toggled, add a flag, and then I can say process input is equal to negate that it's shown. And now it is still rotating. Let's see. Oh, of course. And yeah, I shouldn't be recording those tutorials so late. But now you can see nothing, no rotation, no movement. Even if I start moving, right, the velocity is cancelled out. So we don't get this slide. Perfect. We have that done. The last thing to do is to actually put the items from the inventory into hands of our player. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of that tutorial. The one thing left for us to do is to actually do something when we click on inventory item. So let's see, just do item panel on press, connect on inventory item press, and we'll bind the arguments here. So that's going to be item mesh, item bone name attachment. Okay, and we just have to create that. Let's see, expected expression at the function argument. Yes, because we will just create a very simple function here on inventory item press, which takes a mesh of type mesh and bone attachment node name, which is a string, and we will simply emit a signal on item. Sorry, I was on the phone. So we can just re-emit the signal, and I'm going to call this on item press emit mesh and bone attachment node name, and that should be enough. Let's see, do we have that signal? Not yet, but this is not a problem. Let's see, oh, there's a typo, and now it says we don't have the on item press. Let's create this signal on item press, and we just need to basically emit that bone attachment node name as a string. Perfect. And then we need to handle it somewhere, and I believe the best way to do this is to add a new script in the rig. So let's add a script here, and the rig gd is a fine name for that. Okay, let's add a class name. One thing that I would like to check definitely is the proper name for our resources. I mean the inventory, I mean the rig slot, and we have one H sword as bone attachment, and then we have bat shield here as a attachment, bone attachment name. So let's go here. So this should be one H sword, and be precise with your naming because they have to match like 1-to-1. And then shield, this is the bat shield, right? So now we know to what bone should we attach given given item. So we can go back to our rig. We will need a reference to inventory UI. Okay. And let's do ready function. We of course need to plug in into the on item press, and to get the autocomplete we will cast this. And now we have on item press, we will connect to item pressed, and we have to move that up. Okay, and Let's see. Let's define that function that we need. Item pressed mesh is of type mesh, and then we have bone attachment node name, which is of type string. And here, given the fact that we know the name of the node, we can grab it dynamically with get node function, and this is going to be skeleton 3D slash, oops, slash should go inside, plus bone attachment node name. If we don't find given, let's call this attachment node. If we don't find this attachment node, just return, and then we can create new mesh instance. Mesh instance 3D dot new, set the mesh there, say attachment node add child mesh instance. Okay, let's see whether this works. Here's a typo for you. Let's try this again. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm pressing F to pick it up, and I'm picking up this one. I'm opening the inventory, and let's say bone name attachment doesn't exist because it is bone attachment name. Okay, try this again, and that's why from time to time I would prefer to work in C# because everything is strongly typed there. Okay, grab this, grab that one, open the inventory, press on the sword, and we have our sword in hand. Let's open it up. Let's click on the shield, and we have our shield again. Perfect. So yeah, this is how you can pick stuff up from the ground and equip it for your player. We'll see about the next episode. Maybe we'll work a little bit more on our inventory so that it is more robust, better, and we can equip more stuff. And then I would like to go to the attack section of the game, and then to enemy section of the game. But that's the one with the basic equipment for you. Yeah, we crossed 4K subscribers. Thank you very much. I will try to still do as many videos as possible, but as I mentioned, with my current work, it becomes harder and harder to do that. But I will not surrender, and I will keep on working on educating people about Godot and programming and game engines. So thank you, and I see you in the next one. Goodbye.